Alrighty, so the new Transcendent Bond comes out either later today, because I'm recording this a little bit in advance, or it comes out tonight, going into Tuesday morning, because the patch actually comes out on global very, very soon. So I just wanted to go over the character. It's a bit of a controversial one, I've got to say. This is definitely not the most broken OP festival character we've ever gotten, and a lot of people seem to be pretty upset about that, which I can completely understand, because the mentality of the community seems to be very, if the character's not completely busted, broken for everything in the game, not worth summoning for, which I don't necessarily think is the most true thing. I think that he will probably end up getting some sort of support or something like that in the near-ish future, but as of right now, as of the base launch of the character, he's a little bit rough around the edges. I still think that he looks kind of fun, so I mean, I'm going to be doing live summons and everything for him whenever whenever the banner drops later today, maybe tomorrow. So if you're new to the channel or anything, feel free to subscribe so that way you don't miss out on the live stream, because we'll just be messing around with the unit and everything after he drops, and doing live pulls. So let's talk about what the character does really quickly, so you have some sort of idea, just in case you're newer or you just haven't been keeping up with the JP content just yet. His passive is very interesting. He's a light character, by the way. Grants the hero Domain of Extortion at the start of the battle, and Domain of Extortion is minus 20% damage taken by the 7 Deadly Sins allies. When these allies damage enemies, decrease attack-related stats of all allies or all enemies by 2% for 2 turns, maximum of 5 debuffs. So that's going to play into the fact that he's going to deal more damage depending on how many debuffs are on the enemies and everything, which is a very cool concept. I really do like debuff style units and everything, but that's already going to create a big problem, because cleanses and everything that are like that are very relevant, I guess, with Margaret being in the meta, and there are other characters that can cleanse as well. So just cleansing can pretty easily kind of shut down his sort of gimmick a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of different characters with a lot of different AoE skills, so you can put a lot of different debuffs on the character really easily, I guess, or on the enemy characters. So I don't know, it's just kind of one of those things where you can kind of get reset back to 0, which is a little bit annoying. But anyways, for every 7 Deadly Sins ally, increases the hero's HP related stats by 5%, which is a bit odd. I'm not really sure why they chose HP related stats. He's not the tankiest character I've ever seen, so the lifesteal, I guess, will be kind of nice, but at the same time, I guess you really just want characters to do more damage if they're a damage dealer. So I don't know. It looks. I think a lot of people just assume that this character is looking a little bit more like a support style character, which people always hate whenever a new big festival character comes out and they end up being a support. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. This is kind of just what they've chosen for the character. There's nothing we can do about it now, unless they just end up doing some sort of buff to the character, which they normally just really are very hesitant to do that. I don't see them changing anything too crazy about his kit. But when the hero attacks enemies marked with a mark of concentration, crit damage will be dealt. So it's a crit damage is a crit attack is guaranteed. Basically, when crit damage is dealt, removes the effect. So if you don't know, Mark of Concentration is on his Pierce card. He has a Pierce single target card, which is good in of itself. I honestly think this is probably the better of the 2 cards, just off of pure raw damage. But once you put on Mark of Concentration, it's going to make his second card do a lot of damage, which ends up being kind of the problem. He's a unit where you have to use a 2-card combo, which is going to be really tough, because that means you're going to have to get good RNG to pull extra cards if you're using him in PvP or whatever other content, because if you want that really big damage from this card, you have to use this card, which means it's a combo you have to worry about. And with this game being very RNG based, that can be very hard to get off consistently. So it does apply Mark of Concentration, which is minus 100% crit rate to the marked target, which actually is really good, and it lasts for 2 turns. But like I said, if they have a cleanse character or whatever, it's going to kind of, hinder that a little bit. I assume because it's a 2-turn, card, they kind of want you to sort of maybe apply it if they don't have a way to cleanse it off. That way you can put it on a damage dealer or something like that. Wait a turn, they aren't going to be able to crit you or anything, and then you can sort of retaliate with your second card. I don't know, I don't really see people doing that with showcases and everything, but then again, I mean, the character's pretty new. I don't know, maybe that's not really what people want to see. They want to just see big numbers, big damage really fast, so they just use the Pierce card and then the Snipe card. I don't know. I'll definitely be testing out the character in probably a ton of different ways whenever he comes out on Global, so stay tuned, I guess, for that. His second card is a Snipe card, which is new. It's basically like an upgraded version of Spike, which, if you don't know, Spike was just 2 times crit damage. But Snipe is for every debuff on the target, increases damage dealt by 25% up to 7 times, doubles crit damage. So, that he's basically guaranteed to crit on this card if you already have your debuff applied with Mark of Concentration, and if you have them with a ton of debuffs, you're going to be doing an absolutely insane amount of damage. This is basically going to be like, I don't want to say it's a guaranteed kill, because I have definitely seen this, card not get the kill, but if you're set up with max stacks and everything, this is going to do so much damage. The odds of them surviving it are very slim. Obviously, all of his damage modifiers are pretty low. Like, I mean, it gets up to 450%, which is pretty good, and then this one also gets up to 450, but at base level 1s, it's 180 and then 150, which is typically lower than you normally would see, but because there's so many modifiers, like, card effects on these, I'm assuming that's why the actual cards themselves aren't doing as much damage percentage, or attack percentage. His ultimate is very pay to win. It's another one of these like Escanor, where for some stupid reason they made it to where there is a passive basically in the ultimate that is tied to your ultimate levels, which I am just still not a fan of. I don't know why they keep trying to find ways to force characters to have more dupes and everything, which just, obviously it's a money-making scheme, but I say scheme, but it's just a business tactic from them, I guess. For every debuff on the enemy, increases damage dealt to that enemy by 5%, and inflicts Power Strike. Power Strike is extremely strong on an AoE ultimate. Damage equal to 400% of an attack, or of his attack on all enemies. When the hero is on the battlefield, for every attack-related stats reduction debuff on the enemy, which is the one that you apply from his passive, increases the hero's attack-related stats by 3%, up to 9%, so only 3, which is a bit odd. Applicable to debuff inflicted by this hero only. Okay, so it's not, you can't just put any old attack-related stats debuff on. It has to be the one that you apply from his passive. The problem is that the multipliers are 40%, so it starts off at 400%, which, it's, like I said, it's a Power Strike ultimate. It's going to hit really hard regardless, but it does scale all the way up to 600%, which is going to be a basically guaranteed kill on the entire enemy team. I've seen it do up to like 4 million damage, which is just wild to think about. Damage increase modifiers, so it starts off at 5% inflicted, it goes all the way up to 40%, which of course is very strong. Attack-related stats multiplier, it starts at 9% and goes all the way up to 30%, and then at 4, 6, and 5, 6, effect becomes buffs and debuffs. At 6, 6, the effect becomes buffs, debuffs, and stances. So basically just a little bit extra damage going on there. I don't know, that doesn't sound, that doesn't really make the most sense to me just looking at it on paper, but either way, whatever. But yeah, so the character in PvP, like I said, the problem is you have to use 2 different cards to attack. This is a video that Davo put out today. Very big shout out to him. This team looks so much fun. And I definitely want to try it out. He uses green Ragnarok Merlin here to sort of like help boost damage dealt. So you can see he uses the debuff card to apply the debuff and everything, and then he uses really big damage to basically kill any of their basic, damage dealers, which you can use it on any character. You don't have to use it on their damage dealer. Obviously, the big thing here is that goddesses can't be, stat lowered, which is a really big problem. So all of the debuffs that you're putting on the enemies for the Goddess team specifically aren't really doing anything if they're lowering stats, which is a bit unfortunate, but you really just need the debuff itself for him to do more damage, so I guess that's good. But yeah, it's a little bit weird there. Nagato did just put out a video today where he went up against the bird. I don't necessarily think that it was, you're not thinking that this character is going to be great for this kind of game mode, just off of the fact that his debuffs aren't going to be able to apply. Like, just straight up, he's on floor 3 at this point, and he tries to use the Pierce card. It does not apply the debuff, but it does actually get applied in floors 1 and 2. it's kind of just like the way that they build those enemies. Unfortunately, they basically always end up gaining like full debuff immunity at some point. They even made it to where like as soon as Estarossa came out, they were immune to darkness and all this other stuff. Like they don't want those, you know, fights to be super easy, even though Escanor literally tears it in half. So it's just inherently the way that this character works is just going against the way that the game mode sort of wants you to play. So he's not great in demonic beast battles. It's just plain and simple, he's not great. He wasn't really going to be good for Nidhogg regardless, because he's a human character and there's not really a full human team that you can use on that content yet. So I really don't know what they were thinking when they made this kit. I'm not saying it's inherently bad, but it isn't what people were wanting, and it's not very, you know, broad. Like you can't use it efficiently in all of the different game modes, I guess. So that's really bad. Talking about the banner itself, I know this video is getting a little bit too long, but the banner itself is really good value. I think this is one of the biggest things that people are wanting to summon for. This banner has so many festival units in it compared to other, you know, banners and everything like that, that there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to get some festival coins out of this, and the characters that are in the banner itself are actually pretty good. The big thing to note here is that they do update the coin shop with some of the ones that you can trade. Unfortunately, the Holy War Festival characters are not in there, so you cannot trade for dupes of Estarossa, you cannot trade for dupes of Margaret or Festival's Eldris for whatever reason if you want that. But yeah, they basically put all of the other melees that weren't Trader Melee, even though we voted for him because we didn't know that this was happening. But yeah, it's pretty crazy value, actually. You can pull the one Escanor, you can pull Purgatory Meliodas, which a lot of people didn't think was going to be on the banner. The Unknown team is still around from time to time, so you can pull Infinity Merlins here. You can even trade dupes for her on this while this banner is active, which is really good as well. Trader Melee's on the banner if you still need him, which is great. He's really good for a lot of PvE activities. And, you know, Ban is the new character. Obviously, I've gotten a ton of comments already saying, like, hey, I don't really care that much for Ban, but this banner is so good, it's hard to pass up on. I genuinely think that if you're someone who plays the game pretty consistently, if you already have a lot of copies or just have these characters in general and you're not worried that much about dupes, I know I don't really care that much about dupes, but if I get them, I definitely use them. I would say hold off on this banner for right now, at the very least. The character doesn't seem to be, you know, meta breaking. He's not going to be just everybody's running Ban. That's not how it's going to work. I think the Demon team still does really, really well with him on the meta, or the meta in JP. So I would say maybe wait. We'll get the half anniversary banner as well at some point. It's supposed to be a new Arthur, if I'm not mistaken. I don't necessarily know if that specifically is going to make this Ban very good, because he runs off of 7 Deadly Sins characters, which is a bit odd instead of humans. I was talking to some people about it. The Valentine's Day King that came out not too long ago, his passive is specifically for 7 Deadly Sins characters and fairies, so I'm not really sure why they didn't make this character 7 Deadly Sins and humans, but there's a pretty decent roster of 7 Deadly Sins characters, I guess, so there should be a lot of different things that you can kind of experiment with the character with, but overall, he just doesn't look like he's going to be OP broken like people were wanting him to be. So if you're looking for the next, like, hey, I need to have this character because he's the top of the meta and he's absolutely going to help me a ton in PvE, it doesn't really seem like he's meeting that criteria right now. So unless he gets some support or something like that in the near future while the banner is still going on, which we should still be able to see the next 2 banners that come out on JP before this banner has gone on global, you should be able to kind of hang on, maybe do some summons if you're trying to get some of the unfeatured or something like that, or just try to get good value out of the banner that way. But for Ban specifically, I don't know that I can necessarily recommend it right now. I do think the character looks cool. I'm definitely going to test him out. We'll do it in the live stream. Probably do it several days after that as well. But yeah, I'll try to give you some more, you know, opinions on the character as I get to use him. I'm planning on doing him free to play first, and then buy his costumes and stuff, and we'll do some team testing and everything. But yeah, that's basically where I'm at right now. I would say hold on. Don't summon right away. He doesn't seem to be, you know, what people want him to be just yet. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was a helpful video. I know it was a little long. I know the character just has paragraphs of text, so I know that I'm a slow reader, but I don't know. I'll have timestamps and everything that you guys will hopefully will take advantage of. But yeah, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much if you made it all the way to the end of the video, and I will see you guys later. So have a good one.